and welcome everyone to our first inaugural webinar on Is It Time to Rebrand Your Restaurant? We're excited that you're all here. It looks like we've got a good mix of veteran restaurateurs, some folks new to the business, some managers. We're glad you're here. I suspect that everyone's got the same goal. You're here to really learn how to be a better brander, and if you need to make some change to your current operation to be the best brand that you can be. If you're a longtime follower of myself and Jocelyn on Restaurant Branding Roadmap, we thank you for that. If you're new, we'd like to just tell you a little bit about ourselves. Jocelyn and I are both restaurant branding experts. We've combined experience of almost 45 years, makes us sound old, but we started really young. We've written books, we've addressed audiences around the world, we have consulted with startups, emerging businesses, and very, very large global enterprises. So our goal is to take all of that experience and package it so we can help you with your restaurant, give you the tools and the resources, the ideas and the inspiration so that you can really turn your brand into a really valuable asset and be successful with your business. Did I forget anything, Jocelyn?
I think you covered it.
All right. So enough about us. Let's get going on why we're here today. So our goals today, we want to make sure that everyone's on the same page and understands what a strong brand is and is not, why branding matters, how to build your brand's foundation so that everything you do really works efficiently, how to audit your brand's health, smart reasons to rebrand, and 3 keys to successful brand transformation should a change be in your future. And then at the end of our program, we've got an exciting bonus where we will give everyone a touch point audit template that will allow you to really walk through all the touch points of your business and evaluate whether there's an opportunity for improvement and change. So that will be at the end of the program.
And I just wanted to kind of give everybody just a little information on how to take all of this in. So today's presentation is jam-packed full of how to create a brand, how to rebrand. So we're going to have a lot of information. We're going about a mile wide and an inch deep. So just know that there's a lot of information. Take in what you can. If you get 1 or 2 kind of learning points or nuggets from this, then it has been a success. Also know that we will have a recording of the webinar so that you will be able to follow along with this, pick up things that you might have missed. So just kind of relax and let's enjoy the next hour.
And you can also look forward to, we'll summarize this in a recent blog on Restaurant Branding Roadmap too. All right, so what is your restaurant brand? It's important that we're all on the same page because there are certainly different understandings for what a restaurant brand is. Often people think it's your logo, it's your tagline, it's your latest ad campaign. And while those components are important pieces of your brand, they're not really what your brand is. Next slide. Your brand is really a mental impression, and it starts with any business in any category, but today we're focused on the restaurant industry. It starts with your offering, what you monetize and you sell to the marketplace. In a restaurant category, it's your food, it's your concept, it's your brand name. The next piece that builds on this mental impression is your brand essence. And you're going to hear us refer to that term a lot because we believe whether you're a small business or a Fortune 500 global enterprise, being clear on your brand essence will make everything you do so much easier, and it will make everything work so much better. And your brand essence, we're going to talk about how to develop that, but basically it's your purpose, your points of difference, your personality, and your promise. And from there, we have a set of projectors. So you take that information and how do you project that to your customers and your prospects and the buying market? And so these are things like the experience that you deliver in your restaurant, your actions, your communication channels that you select. Do you buy advertising? Do you earn publicity? Do you have a voice in social media? Do you do special events? All of these things then move into the customer's mind, and they decide whether they're going to let this in and create a favorable brand or a negative brand. And so the brand is really, next slide, it is the sum of everything that you do. And we like to use the metaphor of brain tattoo, because a brain tattoo is something that is put there with a purpose and can be removed at any time. So your brand is not your logo, not your tagline, but the sum of everything that you do. Strong brands are distinct. They earn top-of-mind awareness. People are familiar with them. They're relevant to their target audience. And critically important, they are consistent. So whatever they decide their story is, whatever they decide they're going to do, they consistently deliver that to their buyers, to their customers, to their prospects. And most importantly, strong brands are not some creative exercise that the marketing department does, but it's something of value. It's an asset, and it impacts your bottom line. So branding, again, whatever business you're in, takes time, it takes money, it takes energy. So is it really worth focusing on a brand? And certainly today, is it focused on rebranding and making changes? Well, here's 5 quick reasons why, if you've not dedicated a lot to your brand, you may want to reconsider. The first one is great brands can earn premium pricing. When customers believe and connect to a brand, they're not as focused on the lowest cost offering, but they're focused on doing business with organizations that they like and they respect and they value. The next reason why you might want to brand is a great brand can serve as a people magnet, not only for customers, repeat customers, loyal customers, but to employees and talent, your wait staff. We all know that you've got to have a great team to deliver a great brand. The third reason why you want to invest in branding is it becomes a buzz machine. And what we mean by that is when you are clear on who you are and you've got a story that's out there, the media will view that as credibility, and they will think of you more often when they're writing a story and looking for a news source. Also, this credibility will add to the confidence of your customers, and they will be more likely to spread word of mouth. And we all know in the restaurant business that word of mouth referrals is the single most important way that you can generate new friends, new customers, new loyal guests. The next way is when you develop a brand, it actually becomes an item on your balance sheet and becomes an asset. So should you one day decide to sell your business, one day you decide to bring in partners and you ask them to make a financial contribution, you decide to go public, or you're even thinking about doing a franchise business model, your brand becomes a line item on your balance sheet. And the last reason why you want a brand is brands make the buying choice easy. As consumers, we all make decisions every day. We keep scorecards on good things that companies do and things that we don't like as much. And at the end of the day, when we're getting ready to go dine out, we're getting ready to go spend money, hang out with our friends, all of those factors take into account. And a strong brand will make all of these things a reality. Did I miss anything, Jocelyn?
Nope, you covered that all.
Okay. So, how do you tip the scale when customers are making this decision? Jocelyn, you want to jump in and talk about that?
Sure. So, like Karen said, it's really important that you have, the perception that the marketplace has is a very positive one. So what can you do to make your brand one that people love and value and are relevant to them? So it's in the customer experience that you deliver. It's in paying attention to all of the different touch points in your restaurant and delivering them consistently.
And one thing that we've all got to remember, while the brand, the end brand that ends up in the mind of the consumer, ultimately they make the final decisions about that. But as entrepreneurs and restaurateurs, we really control about 90% of that impression by decisions and choices that we make every day. And we all know as business owners, Jocelyn and I are business owners too, we make choices on how to promote people that we do business with. Well, all of these things, when you start being strategic with your decisions, then you will see that you actually control so much of this end brand that the marketplace has about you. So where does this begin? Now, many of you have been in business a long time and you've got a great brand, but you're here today because you're curious on whether you need to make some changes. Well, before we talk to you about reasons why and how to do that, we want to start with what we believe is the single most important exercise, think through activity that you do as a business, and that is being clear on your brand essence, which we talked about earlier as being the foundation of this mental impression that you create. So when we speak about a brand essence, it's really like your DNA. Everyone's brand essence is unique. There's not a right brand essence. There's not a wrong brand essence. And everyone on this call has different situations, different markets and communities that they live in. But we're going to give you the basic framework that you'll be able to start with your brand essence. So we believe there are 4 pillars to a brand essence. The first one is being clear on your purpose. Why are you in business? The second one, your points of distinction. How are you different? Third one, your personality. If you were a person, not a business, what adjectives would you describe your brand? And the last one, your brand promise. So to help you get close to how you break down this foundation, we have created a fictional brand, a make-believe brand, and we're going to walk through the thinking process that they could have used in building out their framework, so you'll see how this applies to your business. So Jocelyn, I'd like to turn that over to you, and you can talk about our fictional brand.
Sure, but first we've got a quick question for everybody to ponder, and you can either chat answers to me or we can do this in the Q&A section, but I just want everybody to think now about how many of you have a document that is written down, and you could say, if you had to read it to somebody or teach it to somebody or just share it with someone, would outline your brand based on kind of these 4 pillars. So just think about that, and we will come back to that later.
And guys and gals, this does not need to be a big document. It can be a 1-page document that you carry with you everywhere that you work into your organizational planning. All right, back to the fictional brand.
So for today's presentation, Karen and I developed our own fictional restaurant, and it's called the Local Snap. So we're going to break down kind of the touch points and the brand essence to show you what we mean by all of this. So for the Local Snap, all the touch points, when we talk about touch points, that's everything from the decor of the restaurant to the logo, to the uniforms, to the menus, to any merchandise, to the food offering itself, anything that is part of the entire restaurant concept. So to align everything in the Local Snap, you see that we've got the colors of the bright, vibrant green. It's a very healthy menu. Everything is under 400 calories and priced in kind of a moderate price range. So it's closer to upscale than fast casual. The textures, everything here is aligned with the essence.
And one thing I'd like to point out before you move on from this slide, Jocelyn, many of those things at first glance look like they're cosmetic. And while a big part of your brand is cosmetic and it's things on the outside, as we dive into this brand essence and these questions that we want you to walk through with your restaurant, you're going to see that really the brand starts from what's under the hood, the values of your business, things that you believe, your stories that you'll tell. So you'll see why this exercise is so important. So if you go to the first pillar, number 1, ask yourself, why are you in business? So again, if we asked the owners of this fictional business, why are you in business, Jocelyn, the entrepreneur that owns this place, she would say, well, Karen, Jocelyn, I'm in business because I want to make money. I'm in business because I want to build an enterprise that I can pass on to my family. I love food. I love being around people. I like being an employer in my community. All those are reasons why I am in business. And you'll see that that information is part of this brand that we will take out to the marketplace. So be clear on what your purpose is. And values, for a second, also can be part of your purpose. So if you are into healthy eating and non-processed foods, if you're like Chipotle and you want to be kind to animals and you want to buy from local resources, any of those things can also fall under the purpose pillar. Okay, the next pillar, what we refer to as the POD, your points of distinction, is how is your brand different and unique, and what types of things can you really own so that your competition can't copy you, but you do these things so well and so consistently that they become yours. So again, this fictional brand, to give you an example, the green snap pea is their graphic identifier. Their building is bright green. The decor is green and white and fresh and contemporary and hip. They also have invited local artists to create artwork around this green snap pea, and they actually sell the artwork and make it available in prints to their customers. Jocelyn mentioned all of their menu items are under 400 calories, and coincidentally, the restaurant owner is a serious gardener and part of a big farming family. So you can see all of those things could be a story that could be leveraged in building the brand, these points of distinction. All right, the next pillar is the personality. So again, if you think of your brand as a person, what adjectives would you use to describe your restaurant? So as an example, we're going to give you some pretty high-profile people here. The woman on your left is Emma Stone. She's a popular actress. Words to describe her might be fun, cute, friendly, young. The woman on the right, Martha Stewart, you would probably have different adjectives that describe her. You might say she's highbrow, she's a perfectionist, she's more mature. You might even say she spent some time in jail. Whatever you would use, you can see how those adjectives are important when you're building a brand, just like when you're building a personal brand. So our entrepreneur, Jocelyn, the owner of Local Snap, she's healthy, she's casual, she's fun, and she's playful. All right, the next piece of your brand will be your promise. And Jocelyn, you want to tell us about that?
Sure. So as we progress through the pillars, you may have noticed that we start with something that is kind of very practical and grounded, like why am I in business? Why am I here? And as we move, through the pillars and creating the brand, we get more emotional. So the promise is the emotional benefit that you promise to provide your customer, and it's how you create a relationship and you build a very strong brand. Is less through the practical pieces of your business, but this emotional part is how you connect and build. So the emotional benefit is that you might be providing a place where people can bring their families for a healthy meal. It might be a gathering place for the community. It might be that you promise to only serve them, locally sourced, very healthy food and non-GMO. So this piece is probably, I'd say, Karen, maybe the most important pillar.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if we recap, again, strong brands are distinct, they're top of mind, they're relevant, and they're consistent, and they impact your bottom line as a business owner, as a business leader. So say you've got all this figured out, and what we just told you, you already know, and it's like, Karen, we've been there, we've done a great job, everything's great, and then one day something hits you in the head. You're blindsided, something changes that dramatically impacts the health of your business, the bottom line of your business, your bank account, everything is a big wreck. And what do we call this? We call this change, and we call this life. Now, change can be good things. If you win a lottery ticket, that could be a good thing. But there's a lot of change that on the surface feels pretty negative. And while some of these things are negative, a lot of them can be great opportunities to introduce change, to do a rebrand, to do a brand refresh. But let's talk about what change can look like, because change has got a lot of different faces. Change can be new competition. Say 10 years ago you opened your restaurant, you were the only place in a geographic area. Now there's 25 new good choices that consumers can go to. Say the economy tanks. We all were here in 2007. We know what that feels like. Maybe there was a bad accident. A crime was committed in your parking lot. You had a fire. There was a scandal. One of your business partners was doing something that they shouldn't be doing, and then the media covered it. Maybe the demographics of your location have changed. You were in a location that had lots of affluent people that were customers, and then all of a sudden that changed, and now there's a lot of industrial building going up, and your buying market is a different market, so you've got to change. Consumers' trends change, their values change. Your business can just get old. We get old, I get old, you get old. Your business can get old, and it can decay, and it can need an update. Maybe the market just isn't loving you anymore. You don't know why, but you know that they're not. Or there could be a business interference. There could be construction going on right in front of your restaurant, and it has totally put a dent in the ability for customers to get to you, and it's a nightmare, and they don't want to come. All of these reasons could be things that could certainly impact the health of your restaurant and your brand. So you can whine and complain and go, poor me, or you can do what successful brands do. And Jocelyn?
Successful brands, just like, successful people, will adapt to the change. So it is possible, no matter what situation has come upon your restaurant or your business, it is possible to adapt to the change through branding and then have your business thrive again.
I was thinking about this the other day, Jocelyn. Some companies that we all know, like Apple Computer, the richest company in the world, they were days away from being gone, running out of money, being history. And look what they did. And if we think about it, there's probably lots of other businesses that we all know. So no matter how grim your situation is, there is hope with smart business planning and smart branding. So today, the big $1 million question on this webinar is it time for a change at your restaurant? Is a rebrand in order? Well, there's a bunch of wrong reasons why you can rebrand, and it's risky, it's dangerous, it can cost you a bunch of money. People do this every day, and we hope you are never in this boat. You want to please everyone. You've got people, your neighbors, your relatives, someone saying, oh, if only you had this, but you know it's going to be different than who you are. And you default and you crater to trying to please everybody. Great brands do not please everyone. They decide who they're going to please, and they do the best job they can at delivering on those promises. Other people will rebrand because they just get bored. After 10, 15 years, you hate your name, you hate your logo. So for no other reason, you're bored and you change. You're changing, you're chasing trends. It's good to be aware of trends. Following trends is not always the best path for every business. It's case by case. Or you could have new leadership, a new investor, a new marketing group, a new marketing director, and they want to put their mark on it, so they change everything just for their ego. All of these are the wrong reasons to rebrand. Smart reasons why you want to rebrand. I'm going to turn this back over to Jocelyn.
Yeah, so Karen covered why we shouldn't rebrand, but there are reasons why you should. And so the first of which is you need to redirect public attention. So maybe there was a negative event that happened at your restaurant. Or, now in today's day and age of, consumers being able to talk back bad Yelp reviews. So that's an opportunity to rebrand and kind of take control back of your brand image to the marketplace. Now, if there was an accident or a negative image, this doesn't mean just sweeping it under the rug and, putting some of that superficial branding things on it. It would mean, owning up to what happened and then building the brand. And the way you will ultimately rebuild this brand is by proving to the marketplace that your new positioning is, in fact, believable.
And really retelling that story, retelling your new story.
The second reason that it's time to rebrand is that, sometimes things get dated. Like Karen said, businesses get old. So it could be that the brand is out of touch. It's not relevant anymore. It's stuck in the 1970s when we're all here living in 2015. It might be wearing a leisure suit, which just is not the style anymore. And an old out-of-date brand is kind of the same as our stinky fish there on the right. So it might just be time for a refresh.
Oh, I can smell him sitting here.
Another great reason is a need to stand out. So suppose that you opened a restaurant that was a burger joint 10 years ago. And at the time, you were the only one in the neighborhood and the only option. And the market trends came to appreciate burgers. So you look around the neighborhood, and now there are 10 options. So now it's time for you to rebrand and figure out ways to separate yourself from the competition. It might be totally overhauling the concept. It might just be making slight adjustments to the menu, the ingredients, the experience, but just a step away from the rest of the competition. Customers' values and tastes are different, is a great reason. So maybe fast food was very attractive, and now people are not wanting that anymore, and they're looking for healthier options for eating. So in that case, it might be time to rebrand. Another great reason is that you've outgrown the brand. Maybe when you started your business, that concept worked for you in the past, and it doesn't reflect you anymore. It doesn't feel like you. This is not the same as being bored with it, but it's not aligned, and you're not putting your heart and soul into it anymore.
All right, so those are great reasons why you might want to completely rebrand or do a little brand refresh. But the real reality check is, if these red flags are appearing everywhere, we would highly recommend you sit down and really look at where you are and where you want to be in the near future. So the list of red flags that we hope you are not experiencing is the first one: declining sales. If sales are consistently soft, it's not just August, the slow month, but you are seeing a continual decline in your customers, their check average, your overall sales, and your expenses are what they used to be, and you've got a lot of fixed expenses that you can't change. Are you not earning your share of publicity? A few weeks ago, we wrote a blog post on restaurant branding roadmap, and a veteran, very successful family-operated business who has a strong business, they phoned us up and they said, we don't get any publicity any longer. When the media covers a restaurant, they're always like the new kid that just opened up and the young new chef that's covered with tattoos, and they don't pay us any attention. That could be a reason why it's time to look at improvement and to do some things differently. Are you having a hard time attracting talent, both from executives and leadership to wait staff, good wait staff that is aligned with who you are as a business? Are your partners losing confidence, your bank, your investors? And is there a gap in who you think you are, your brand essence that we talked about, and what the market really perceives your brand to be?
So just another quick question for everybody to consider, and we'll get to this at the end. So how many of you are experiencing any of these red flags? Another question is, are there any other reasons that you might be considering rebrand? Anything we missed on this list? So if you just jot those down, we will revisit this in a little bit.
So whatever your case is, say a few red flags, you got the big list. The first thing you need to do is clearly identify who your current customer is. How old are they? What income bracket are they in? Where do they come from? What do they like to do when they're not dining out? What's their lifestyle? Who are these people who are currently supporting your restaurant? Then the next big question is, does this group of people have the buying power to bring home the bacon, to deliver on this dream that you have for your business? And if we've got any vegans out there, are they going to be able to bring home the beans? Can they support the business that you want to have? And unfortunately, sometimes in business, you've got to go, whoa, this customer base that we have right now is not going to make our future very bright. And you've got to figure out a way to attract other people outside of that circle, or you've got to do a better job of touching that circle so that there's more of those people. So how do you do this? You look under the hood of your brand. You take a diagnostic, closer look at 5 really important areas. And the first important area that you want to look at is your brand awareness. Is your brand top of mind? So how do you do this? You've got to gather insight. And I know many of you are small operators. You don't have a big team. You don't have lots of resources. So some of this may mean hitting the streets, going to the hotels near you and talking to the concierge and the general managers and the people at the front desk and asking them, when you say the name of our restaurant, what comes to mind? Who do you think we compete with? What can we do better? So that's one way that you can gather insight. And Jocelyn's going to talk about other ways that you can really get a grip around where your brand awareness is and where there's some room for improvement.
Mm-hmm. So the gap that Karen talked about, like even if it's just our business or how we perceive ourselves, we have our own picture in our own mind. So to the owner of the local Snap, she feels as though she's got everything nailed down. She knows that the concept is healthy. She knows what the price is. She understands the personality that she wants to project out to the marketplace of her restaurant. And she knows that in her mind, the distinctions are very clear, the farm to table, the eco-centered. However, the gap occurs when you go out in the marketplace and you ask them what they think, feel, and expect whenever they hear the name, in this case, the local snap. So like the woman on the right, if you asked her, she says, I don't know what their story is. I think they're a place that takes a lot of coupons, or maybe there's a 2-for-1 happy hour, or is that the place that used to be the Chinese restaurant? So as you can see, there's a lot of work to be done to bridge that gap.
So let me interrupt you for a second, Jocelyn. Specific ways that our listeners can get this insight. So you can talk to your customers, but again, they're already in your restaurant, so they may say things that you want to hear. It may be better to have mystery shoppers go out to your competitors' places and ask questions, but don't ask loaded questions where you're just asking about your restaurant. If you're going to, for instance, go to a shopping center or a mall and you hire a college student to ask 5 questions to anyone that you can approach and get an answer, and then maybe you give them a gift card, you give them movie tickets, but then ask them about 3 or 4 different restaurants so that they don't know that the researcher is with your restaurant, and then quiz them on these questions. Another way you can gather insight is by paying attention to social media. What are people saying in community social media channels, not your Facebook page? Hopefully they're saying good things there, but other pages that have more general information. And then, you can do a focus group too. You can rent a room at a hotel and invite, again, 10, 15 people in and just ask them questions, but just make sure that you're not loading up the questions so that they're going to say what you want to say because they know that you're behind the research.
Mm-hmm. Another more quantifiable way is by looking at numbers. So you can actually take a look at mentions that you've had in the news or PR coverage. And if you had a plan for a goal that you wanted to reach, you can compare that to actual, like we've done here, or just scanning and looking for, commonalities in what you're reading. So, of course, there's going to be, very, very high marks and very, very low marks. Kind of look through the middle and see if there are common themes so that you can get an idea of what the marketplace thinks of you. Same thing for paid media. What have you done for marketing? And then finally, like Karen said, taking a look at social media followers.
And paid media impressions can also be special events that you've done. I know many of you get involved with charity events where you may give silent auction items, you may give food at festivals. Those things can also be counted as impressions. But if your impressions is not hitting that critical point, it's very likely your brand awareness is not as strong as it needs to be, or they could be thinking something that is not aligned with who you think you should be. Another piece to look at is your brand equity. And again, talking about your balance sheet, equity is something that ends up on your balance sheet, especially if you go to sell your business. And so when a business valuation specialist is looking at this, things that they will ask the person is how long have you been in business? Do you do big high-profile events every year that, again, earn top-of-mind awareness? How many people have you served in your community? We all know McDonald's for years on their signs would have the millions and millions of burgers that they sold. And how many locations do you have? These are things that correlate to a brand's equity.
Another diagnostic tool that we encourage our clients to use and that we use ourselves when we're helping with a brand refresh or brand rebuild is to look at your brand positioning. So what does this mean? This means that if you look out in the marketplace, look at all of your different competitors, And we literally will take a blank wall and Post-it notes and just kind of map them out under different categories. So figuring out if there are concepts that are fine dining restaurants, if there's fast casual, if there's Italian, if there's Mexican, if there's family style, and put those all, on a wall to map them out and figure out where we or the client sits in that and how we would want to position ourselves in the future versus what we're currently positioned at.
And again, when you're thinking about brand positioning, think about your price point, think about your concept, think about your market appeal. Do you appeal to affluent, educated? Do you appeal to blue collar? Do you appeal to pink collar? All of those pieces are important when you're thinking through your positioning.
Next is your brand relevance. So this is a question that we ask, is if you were to close your doors tomorrow, would anyone miss you? And if the answer is no, then sadly it's probably time for a brand refresh. But if you do have a core group of customers to whom your brand is very important, that is something that you put into that diagnostic picture to decide what you're going to do as your next step. And then finally, we've talked a lot about the external brand, what the marketplace thinks. There's also a really important group that you need to consider when you're talking about your brand and measuring it, and that's the internal brand. So these are your employees. Remember, if you have a really strong brand of a great restaurant where people want to work, you're going to attract the best talent and you're going to retain them. So you measure your internal brand by asking your employees if they can explain the brand to you. Say, what does this restaurant name mean when I say it to you? You can ask them less formally, but questions about the purpose and what makes us different and what is the emotional benefit that we provide. You can do this in, just conversations. You can do this by actually having, a forum that you have. You can also ask your employees for ideas about what would make the brand better and reward them for that participation. Because when you include your employees in helping to build the brand, you'll have a much higher success rate of the brand being executed. So this is a really important piece.
And rewards don't have to be high-ticket items. Again, movie tickets, a shift off, VIP parking. There's a lot of different things that you can do that will make employees feel good about contributing and being collaborative in your brand development. So what else do you need to know? We've covered 5 areas that we believe are critical when you're evaluating whether your brand needs change, needs improvement, needs a rebrand of any path. But there's a couple other questions that you need to ask yourself, because you could have a dream of being something else, but you've got to be able to pull it off both with the people and the funding. Do you have the people to do this? Do you have the money to do this? Or do you need to tap some new funding? Do you need to bring in new partners? What does that look like? But certainly an important piece is you're evaluating whether it's time to change and to what degree you change. And the next question, while this photo is a little disturbing, it puts focus on an important question. How much runway do you have before it gets scary? And what we mean by runway is how much time do you really have left if you do not change one thing? Will you be out of business in 6 months, in 12 months, in 18 months? So really look at how much runway you have, because both your time and your resources are going to really impact your scheduling and what you need to do and how fast you need to do it.
And then the next question you need to ask is, so I've evaluated my brand, and you need to decide, is a brand refresh in order, or is it time for just a 360, take everything down to the ground and rebuild it from scratch? So a brand refresh could be anything from, thinking about like if you're working on a house, a fresh coat of paint. So could you make some minor adjustments to your menu or to the experience or to other touch points, like we showed you on the example of local Snap. The 360 rebrand would mean completely redoing the concept, redoing the location, redoing the menu, just starting from scratch and building up an entirely new brand essence and then relaunching.
So the next slide, when we're making big decisions about our business, working with companies, we often do a decision tree of pros and cons. And here's a list of things that you should process through your mind, get your team involved with. So the pros of doing a partial rebrand, a refresh, or a major rehaul. One really important thing is it will give you a new reason to touch your customers. So if you've been kind of telling them the same story, but you've got changes that you can share with them, that reason to reconnect can have a lot of value with it. It also can create news, and you can earn publicity. And if you manage publicity right, you could earn hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of exposure without spending hard dollars on advertising if, in fact, you've got some news to share, and a rebrand could generate news. Your staff could be re-energized. They could be engaged in the process, excited about the change, and they can be the fuel that you need in your tank to turn your restaurant from kind of sluggish and plugging along to just a rocking success. And your valuation can change too. Again, talking about that brand equity and that line item on your balance sheet. So those can be all the really good reasons to rebrand. Now, on the flip side of that, you need to ask yourself, well, you just about guarantee that you're going to have some kind of resistance. You're going to have resistance from employees. You might even have resistance from family members if you're a family operation, even the marketplace. I'm sure many of you saw just a few months ago, Olive Garden changed their logo. Oh my gosh, you would have thought that they, caused bodily harm to thousands of people. People got really emotional and voiced out that they didn't like it. But you also have to know that sometimes you're going to get that kind of resistance, and it's still the right thing to do to make a change. So you've got to get real what that means and think about that. You've got to look at the real cost, the labor cost, the hard cost. Do you have to shut down your business for a week, a weekend? What is that business disruption going to look like? How much time is it going to take? Do you have the mental resiliency to have the leadership to do this change? And can you deal with your employees being resistant? And sometimes you got to clean house. You might have a bunch of great folks that have worked with you for a long time, but maybe they don't fit into your future. And while that doesn't feel good, sometimes you've got to do that. So this is a good list to start with, pros and cons. Did I miss anything, Jocelyn?
Nope, you got them. But just that point about that you will face resistance, but sometimes you need to let those customers go in order to get the new ones. So.
All right. So as we are wrapping up, 3 keys to successful brand change management. And Jocelyn and I have been working together for over 10 years in all categories of branding, not just the restaurant space. And these are 3 universal keys that if you get this right, it can definitely be a game changer and can impact your success. The first one is, no matter what, you've got to make timely decisions. We've worked with many entrepreneurs that we go through the research process. We go through clarifying the brand essence, where they want to be, and they just can't hit the go button. They're afraid to make those decisions. If you don't make decisions, if you do the same thing you've been doing for the past 5 years, the past 10 years, the past 15 years, your results are going to be the same. You've got to make timely decisions, and you've got to base these decisions on a balance of what do you feel in your gut. There is value to what your gut says. Your gut doesn't just create imaginary stuff. Your gut comes from things that you've experienced in the world and information that you know. In case you don't know that, you also need to make sure that you do enough research. You talk to people that will tell you the truth, not just what you want to hear. And it's a balance of gut intuition and hard research making these decisions. The second one, Jocelyn, I'm going to let you talk about this. And for those of you who don't know Jocelyn's background, she is a former investment banker and was involved.
Hold that against me.
Yeah, and transformed from that to branding strategist. So didn't she used to say, Jocelyn, I think you still say, a business without a plan is a plan to fail?
Yeah. Yes, it is. So once you have committed to this decision, you've picked the direction, you're ready to go, the next thing you've got to do is you have got to make a plan. And like Karen said, your plan comes from research. So you've balanced, sort of your intuition and that feeling that you've got about the direction to go with some hard evidence, and that is part of your plan. Next is that you are crystal clear on what your brand essence is. Now, if you start with your plan without having that foundation, that DNA that's in your restaurant brand, what you're going to do is you're going to have this plan and you're going to be working on tactics. So you might, pick a location for your restaurant that has nothing to do with what your brand stands for. You might, set up a marketing campaign that does not reflect what the brand is because you're unclear on the brand. So really get clear on what the brand is so that you can work that plan.
And Jocelyn, let me interrupt you. All of you in your link today got this handout that's the action workbook, and all of this stuff that we're talking about is in here. So if you're forgetting those 4 pillars of the brand essence, it's all here for you to print out and to start working on.
Mm-hmm. Next, like I touched upon on that point about the internal brand, involve your employees. Because if you think about it, your employees are going to be the ones who are touching the customers. They are going to be creating the experience in your restaurant. So elicit ideas from them. If they've got ways to implement this branding that could be helpful to you instead of you having to kind of create the plan on your own, let employees do that. Within your plan, you need to set goals, because if you don't have the goals, again, you just kind of aimlessly move from tactic to tactic. So figure out what it is that you want to achieve and then be able to review those goals as part of your plan. The next one is committing to your strategies and creating behaviors that reflect the strategy. So say what you're going to do and then do it, and make sure that your employees also understand the brand and can live it. And then finally, a plan can be overwhelming. So what we like to do when we've got a big brand plan is you need to prioritize. Doing a rebrand, whether it's a refresh or starting from scratch, it's going to take time. Great brands are not built overnight. So what you're going to do is you're going to break down all of the parts of your plan into the most important tactics and start there. I mean, we like to start with just 3 things, and then we get those 3 things done, and then we can move on to the next.
And the last one, we talked about the reasons why you need to do change is because sometimes a ball like that will hit you in the face. Some of that ugly change that we shared with you, the competition, the economy, all those things can happen while you're even going through a reinvention of your brand. And again, the successful companies that we all admire, they are resilient, and they know if this was easy, everyone would be an entrepreneur and everyone would be running a business. And we know that it's a tough business. So stay strong, stay resilient. If you work the plan and do these steps that we talked about, the likelihood of your success is very high.
So this is just a recap of everything that you'll find in that action workbook that we sent to you in the PDF. And if you did not get it, feel free to email me. I've got my email at the end of the presentation. So today we covered what a strong brand is and is not, why branding matters and is so important to your business. We've given you our step-by-step formula that we will use with all of our clients on how to build a brand foundation, and then how to check on your brand's health to make sure that what you've created and the market perception is matched up and healthy. We've given you the right reasons to rebrand, and finally the 3 keys to a successful brand transformation. Again, like Karen mentioned, we'll send you a follow-up email that will have our touchpoint checklist, so you can go through all of the different touch points in your restaurant. You can rank them by what's working, what's not, and then give them a priority. And again, it's a very long list, so you'll just need to prioritize and just do what you can at the pace that you can.
And ask yourself, of all these touch points, which there's over 50 on this document, what has the greatest impact for the smallest investment? Where can you touch the most people with your new story should you decide to rebrand?
And with that, if anybody has any questions, I'm going to go ahead and unmute, and you can ask us questions.
We have a shy audience.
That's okay. And again, if any questions come up, there are several ways to reach us. You can visit our blog. We are on social media. We're on Facebook at Restaurant Branding Roadmap. You can reach us through Twitter. We're at Restaurant Road. Also, my email is jring@restaurantbrandingroadmap.com, so you can feel free to send me any questions or give us topics that you'd like for a future webinar.
And as we close today, you may feel like you need some additional help, so we'd like to offer some specials just for the folks who are on the webinar today. So we've got something that we call a brand review, where you can send us up to 3 of your touch points, whether it be website, menu, pictures of your restaurant, any 3 touch points that you have, and we will look at them, we'll give you feedback, we'll give you suggestions to improve them. Normally that sells for $299, and for this webinar class, we have a special for $99. Another alternative to get some help is just an hour of consulting. You can ask us questions about anything from your business planning to your name, to your logo, to employee internal brand issues. Normally, our sessions sell for $250, and for webinar attendees, we've got a special price of $189. And there is Jocelyn's email address if you've got questions on either one of those. And the last thing we want to tell you about, which we are really excited about, for the past 2.5 years, Jocelyn and I have been building an online course that takes everything that we've learned about branding and puts it in a self-study class that you can do on your schedule 24/7. It's an 8-week course. It's got 8 modules, everything from brand naming to developing your graphic package to developing an amazing customer experience, doing research. It comes with private coaching sessions and group sessions. It's got over 300 resources, exercises. We're really proud of it, and it's going to be launching at the end of July. if you have any interest in that and you want to sign up today, we're offering a special rate for the folks that attended this webinar where you can save up to 30% for as little as $139 down to hold your seat, and then you can pay out the balance, which is $69 a month for 11 months. It's got a ton of value. We're really excited about it, and if you're interested in it, you want to talk about it, reach out to us. If you know of other people in your community that have restaurants, bars, cafes, any sort of food service establishment, we'd appreciate if you'd tell them about it. And on that note, I think that is it. Jocelyn, anything else from Charleston, South Carolina? I'm from Tampa, Florida. We've got 2 spots in the U.S. that we're covering. Anything we missed?
I just want to thank you all for spending an hour with us today. We are both super passionate about branding. I mean, I could go on and on for a 12-hour webinar talking about branding. Again, feel free to reach out to us with any questions, and we'll send you a replay to this, and we'll get you the touchpoint audit. And thank you so much. This was fun.
Look forward to seeing you at the next webinar soon. And Jocelyn, always great to see you. And brand on.
All right. Thank you, guys.